We're making chicken fajita burritos. Each one of these is 509 calories and 43 grams of protein. They're a great little snack, give you a boost of energy, and they're perfect for storing as well. Let's jump straight in. We'll start off with the vegetables. We're going to need 1 brown or yellow onion. This is on the larger side, so I'm using 1. If you have small onions, I do recommend using 2. Slice off both ends and then slice this in half. Peel it, save all the scraps for a stock, and then we're going to slice this in the half moon position into thin or thick strips, depending on how you like your onion. Obviously, the smaller they are, the quicker they're going to cook. Along with the onions, we also need 2 bell peppers or capsicums. This is 1 red and 1 green. Yellow is completely fine to use as well. Stand these up with the bottom on the board, and then we're going to slice around the core to remove any seeds and pith. This just keeps it all neat and tidy. You can slice these directly in half and then pick the seeds and pith out with your hands if you prefer to do that. If there is any excess pith, just trim that off, and then we're going to slice these into thin strips. It is best to try and keep everything consistent sizes. What I have here is 1 kilo or 2.2 pounds of boneless and skinless chicken breast. All we're going to do is slice these in half to open them up like a butterfly, hence the name butterfly chicken. Slice them in half into 2 even-sized fillets. If they are quite thick, just bang them out so they're all consistent sizes, and then slice these into thin strips going across that grain. You want to try and keep these as thin as possible. They're going to cook nice and quick and get a nice sear on them. If they are on the larger side and you are overcrowding the pan, you're just going to end up with steamed chicken. Now, to go with the chicken, we're going to need 5 grams or 0.2 ounces of fresh oregano. If you can't get fresh or don't want to use it, dried can be used, and I'll have all the details in the link in the description. As for this, just scrunch it up and then roughly chop, making sure that there's no large leaves or stems. And I should say I have picked all of the leaves off of the stems, so these are just the leaves only, but a little bit of stem in there is completely fine.
For the fajita spice mix, add 2 teaspoons each of onion and garlic powder into a bowl, along with 2 teaspoons each of sweet paprika and ground cumin, and about 1/4 teaspoon of chili powder or chili flakes. Mix this all together, make sure everything's combined, and then we want to remove 1 tablespoon, just reserving this for later, and then add the remaining spice mix to the chicken that we just sliced. Season the chicken well with a good couple of pinches of salt and hit it up with some cracked black pepper. I used about 15 cracks worth here. Get in there with clean hands and mix this all together. Make sure that spice mix is completely coating the chicken, and what you should have is this nice light rub.
Now for the fillings, I was going to be making a guacamole, but in Australia right now, all of the avocados are rocks. I don't know why they picked them way too early. They're just unusable. So we're going to be making a simple salsa instead. If you are using avocado, I will include the macros with, as well as the macros without. So all of that will be seen at the end of the video. For the salsa, we're going to use 3 tomatoes. All I'm doing with these is slicing them into strips, stack the strips up and then cut them into battens, rotate the battens, and then dice into large pieces. You can have them smaller or larger, that choice is all yours. And if you really wanted to, you can remove the pulp, but you're going to end up with less tomato. If you have 1 large onion, I do recommend only using half. This one is a small onion, so I'm going to be using the whole thing. Take off the tip, slice it in half, and then peel it. Make thin slices across, stopping at the root. Do the horizontal slice if you'd like to do that, and then dice these into small to medium-sized pieces. I like to make these a little bit smaller than tomatoes, but you can make it all the same size if you prefer to do that. Now in this bowl, I've got 15 grams or 0.5 ounces of coriander or cilantro. If you don't like it, you don't have to use it. Scrunch this up and then roughly chop, making sure that there's no large leaves or stems. And we're going to separate 10 grams into one pile and 5 grams into the other.
For the guacamole or the salsa, we're going to add the 5 grams or 0.2 ounces of coriander into the bowl. Slice 1 lime in half and then use a fork or a citrus juicer and extract the juice in there. I like to use a fork because you get a little bit more pulp in there as well, just a little bit of extra flavor. Add 2.5 teaspoons of avocado oil or olive oil. That is completely optional, by the way, I just like to use it. And hit it up with a little bit of salt and cracked black pepper. Mix that all together, make sure everything's combined, give it a taste and adjust any acidity or even salt and pepper to your liking, and then place this in the fridge until we're ready to serve. One last thing before we get cooking is empty 1 can of black beans into a sieve, give it a rinse under some cold water, and then let these drain for the time being, and this is going to be used for our coriander black bean rice. In a saucepan, add 1 cup of washed long grain rice, along with 1 3/4 cups of cold water, a nice pinch of salt, and then place this over a high heat. Give it a mix around to prevent any clumping and then bring this up to a boil. When it is at a boil, place on a lid, reduce the heat to low, and cook this for 12 minutes. Now in a large pan over a medium-high heat, add in 1 tablespoon of avocado or olive oil and then add in those onions and bell peppers. Spread it out so it's not all sitting on top of one another, and then season to taste with salt and cracked black pepper. Mix this all together and we're going to saute this for about 6 to 8 minutes to get that nice color on there, that nice little charring, and I recommend letting this sit for about 2 minutes or so before you start mixing it around. Let that color develop. And what we're looking for is of course that color, but for the vegetables to still be al dente but nice and soft. Once that's achieved, add in the reserved 1 tablespoon of that fajita spice mix it all together and cook for about 30 to 45 seconds for those flavors to become friends. Remove the pan from the heat and then add the vegetables into a bowl, placing that pan back over a medium-high heat. Once the pan's nice and hot, add in 1 tablespoon of avocado or olive oil. Add in the chicken, and if your pan's not big enough, I do recommend doing this in batches to avoid overcrowding and steaming the chicken. Spread the chicken out so it's not sitting on top of one another, and then let it sit for about 2 minutes to get that crust. Pretty much the same thing as we did with the vegetables just before. Mix this all together, and in total we're going to cook this for about 5 to 6 minutes, or until that chicken's cooked through and you have that really nice color. At this point, add in the fresh or dried oregano along with all of the vegetables that we sauteed off before. Mix this all together, get the heat back through the vegetables and cook this for about 30 to 45 seconds, and then we can remove this from the stovetop. The rice has been cooking for 12 minutes, I've removed it from the heat and left the lid on for a final 4 minutes. Remove the lid, add in the drained and rinsed black beans along with 10 grams or 0.3 ounces of chopped coriander or cilantro if you'd like to use it. Mix this all together, make sure the rice is nice and soft and fluffy, all of the ingredients are evenly incorporated. Just double check it for seasoning, adjusting if necessary, and what you should have is something that looks like this. Now when it comes to serving up, you want 7 tortillas of your choice. You can slightly warm them to make them easier to wrap. Spread them with a little bit of Mexican salsa or even the guacamole, then place down that coriander black bean rice. Over the top, we're going to be using our salsa. Unless you've made guacamole, then spread that on the bottom. And to top these off, we'll add over that chicken fajitas, making sure that it's nice and compact so nothing comes falling out. Everyone has a different way to wrap these, just do whatever's easiest for you. I like to fold in the sides first and then fold it over, creating sort of like a lip to hold everything together. And then roll this up, making sure that the seam is at the bottom so nothing comes flying out. As for wrapping them up, you can use foil, food safe paper bags, Ziploc bags, or even meal prep containers. Just make sure that they're nice and airtight. And with all of that done, we've got 7 chicken fajita burritos. They're all nicely packed and ready for storing.
With these all wrapped up, they'll go in the fridge for up to 4 days and in the freezer for up to 3 months. If you have them frozen, just allow them to thaw overnight in the fridge. For reheating, it can be done in a pan, an oven, a microwave, or even an air fryer. And I actually recommend doing it in an air fryer because the tortillas will get nice and crispy and heat up that center a lot faster. You can also eat them fresh if you prefer.
I think it's only fair that I slice one in half and then show you the center. There's a nice even amount of all of the ingredients. These also smell fantastic and they look pretty decent too. This right here is the complete macro card for the chicken fajita burritos, and this one is with the avocado. And then this next macro card is without, and both of these macro cards are for one individual burrito.
With everything said and done, there's only one thing left to do, and that is we can then dig in. Even without the guacamole, that is still really nice. I do highly recommend using it though, just adds a little bit more moisture as well as a nice little creamy texture. You can also add some sour cream, a different kind of salsa, or even just a different sauce of your choice. Super filling, super easy to make, and I cannot wait for you to try it yourself.